नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो जानकी वल्लभ राम नमो जानकी वल्लभ हम नमो रुक्मिणी वल्लभ कृष्ण नमो रुक्मिणी वल्लभ कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो राम नमो नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो नंदन राम नमो दशरथ नंदन नमो नमो वसुदेवानंदन कृष्ण नमो वसुदेवानंदन कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो मर्दन राम नमो रावण मर्दन राम नमो कंस विमर्दन कृष्ण नमो कंस विमर्दन कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो राम नमो नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो मर्दन राम नमो की मर्दन नमो पूतन मर्दन कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो दयाला राम नमो दीन दयाला राम नमो रक्षक कृष्ण नमो दीन रक्षक कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो राम नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो राम नमो राम नमो नमो श्री कृष्ण नमो हो जय शंकर गुरु शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरु शंकर गुरु जय शंकर गुरु शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरु जगत गुरु जय जगत गुरु जगत गुरु जय गुरु जगत गुरु जय जगत गुरु जगत गुरु जय जगत गुरु शंकर गुरु शंकर गुरु शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरु शंकर गुरु शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरु अपार महिमा गुरुनाथा कृपा सागरा गुरुनाथा अपार महिमा गुरुनाथा कृपा सागरा गुरुनाथा अनुदिनं वन्दे गुरुनाथा अनुदिनं वन्दे गुरुनाथाय नयानुग्रहं वाय गुरुनाथा अनुदिनं वन्दे गुरुनाथाय नयानुग्रहं वाय गुरुनाथा गुरुनाथा सद्गुरुनाथा आलड़ी तोन्रिय गुरुनाथा सद्गुरु कालड़ी तोन्रिय गुरुनाथा कालड़ी तोन्रिय गुरुनाथा என்னை விடுவாயோ குருநாதா காலடி தோன்றிய குருநாதா என்னை கைவிடுவாயோ நாதா கால பிடித்தோம் குருநாதா கால பிடித்தோம் குருநாதா என்னை கைவிடுவாயோ குருநாதா காலை பிடித்தோம் குருநாதா என்னை கைவிடுவாயோ நாதா குருநாதா சத்குருநாதா காலடி தோன்றிய குருநாதா குருநாதா சத்குருநாதா காலடி தோன்றிய குருநாதா शंकर गुरो जय शंकर गुरो शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरो शंकर गुरो जय शंकर गुरो शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरो शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरो शंकर भगवत पाद शंकर गुरो ओम विनायकं समस्तलोकशंकरं नमामि ओम विनायकं समस्तलोकशंकरम् अनाथदीनरक्षकम् आनन्दसद्गुणाकरम् अनाथदीनरक्षकम् आनन्दसद्गुणाकरम् गणेश्वरं गजेश्वरं सुरेश्वरं महेश्वरं गणेश्वरं गजेश्वरं सुरेश्वरं महेश्वरं नमामि ॐ विनायकं समस्तलोकशङ्करं नमामि ॐ विनायकं समस्तलोकशङ्करम् योगिनां हृदन्तरे वसन्तभास्करं विभुं योगिनां हृदन्तरे वसन्तभास्करं विभुं मुदाकरं कृपाकरं सुधानन्दात्मरञ्जकं मुदाकरं कृपाकरं नन्दात्मरञ्जकं गणेश्वरं गजेश्वरं सुरेश्वरं महेश्वरं गणेश्वरं गजेश्वरं सुरेश्वरं महेश्वरं नमामि ॐ विनायकं समस्तलोकशङ्करं नमामि ॐ विनायकं सलोकशङ्करम्। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। शांति शांति शांति। We will chant the invocatory prayer. ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We will chant the Mundakopanishad, Chapter 1, Section 2, Mantra 1 to 13. 1 to 13, yes. तदेतत् सत्यं मन्त्रेषु कर्माणि कवयो यान्यपश्यंस्तानि त्रेतायां बहुधा संततानि तान्याचरथ नियतं सत्यकामा येषवः पन्था सुकृतस्य लोके यदा लेलायते ह्यर्चिः समिद्धे हव्यवाहने तदाज्यभागावन्तरेणाहुतिः प्रतिपादयेत् श्रद्धया हुतम् यस्याग्निहोत्रमदर्शमपौर्णमासमचातुर्मास्यमनाग्रयणमतिधिवर्जितं च अहुतमवैश्वदेवमविदिनाहुतमां सप्तमांस्तस्य लोकान् हिनस्ति काली कराळी च मनोजवाच सुलोहितायांश्च सुधूम्रवर्णा स्फुलिङ्गिनी विश्वरुची च देवी लेलायमाना इति सप्तजिह्वाः एतेषु यश्चरते भ्राजमानेषु यथा कालं चाहुतयो ह्यददायन् तं नयन्त्येताः सूर्यस्य रश्मयो यत्र देवानां पतिरेकोऽधिवासः ये ह्येहीति तमाहुतयः सुवर्चसः सूर्यस्य रश्मिभिर्यजमानं वहन्ति प्रियां वाचमभिवदन्त्योर्चयन्त्यः एष वः पुण्यः सुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकः प्लवाह्येते अदृढा यज्ञरूपा अष्टादशोक्तमवरं येषु कर्म ये तच्छ्रेयो येऽभिनन्दन्ति मूढा जरा मृत्युं ते पुनरेवापि यन्ति अविद्यायामन्तरे वर्तमानाः स्वयं धीराः पंडितं मन्यमानाः जङ्घन्यमानाः पर्यन्ति मूढाः अन्धेनैव नीयमाना यतान्धाः अविद्यायां बहुधा वर्तमाना वयं कृतार्था इत्यभिमन्यन्ति बालाः यत्कर्मिणो न प्रवेदयन्ति रागात् तेनातुराः क्षीणलोकाः श्रवन्ते इष्टापूर्तं मन्यमाना वरिष्ठं नान्यच्छ्रेयो वेदयन्ते प्रमूढाः नाकस्य पृष्ठे ते सुकृतेऽनुभूत्वे इमं लोकं हीनतरं वा विशन्ति तपश्रद्धेये ह्युपवसन्त्यरण्ये शान्ता विद्वांसो भैक्ष्यचर्यां चरन्तः सूर्यद्वारेण ते विरजाः प्रयान्ति यत्रामृतः स पुरुषो ह्यव्ययात्मा परीक्ष्य लोकान् कर्मचितान् ब्राह्मणो निर्वेदमायात्नास्त्यकृतः कृतेन तद्विज्ञानार्थं स गुरुमेवाभिगच्छेत् समित्पाणिश्रोत्रियं ब्रह्मनिष्ठम् तस्मै स विद्यानुपवसन्य सम्यक् प्रशान्तचित्ताय शमान्विताय येनाक्षरं पुरुषं वेद सत्यं प्रोवाच तां तत्त्वतो ब्रह्म विद्याम्. In the previous class, we have been studying in the mantra 5, where the Guru is explaining the purpose of ritualistic practices in human life. So, and also the glory and greatness of ritualistic practices and their limitation also clearly explained. And this entire section 2 of chapter 1 talks about this ritualistic practice only. So, he gave that clear understanding that those who execute their activities with desires, even though they are noble desires, but since they are desire-ridden activity, you are executing because of you are propelled by the desire and you got a result orientation, you accrue, you collect a deposit called merits, punya, which transports you to the super sensuous enjoyments in the heaven said to be here, and you having gone to the heavenly pleasures, you get back. Once the merit is exhausted, you get back to the cycle of mundane world of birth and death in the world. This is the limitation of the ritual, but this ritualistic practices explanation continues by the Guru. So now we get on to the mantra 6. What is that mantra 6 got to say? We will try to explore and understand. Ye ह्येहीति तमाहुतयः सुवर्चसः सूर्यस्य रश्मिभिर्यजमानं वहन्ति प्रियां वाचमभिवदन्त्योर्चयन्त्यः एष वः पुण्यः सुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकः ये ह्येहीति तमाहुतयः सुवर्चसः सूर्यस्य रश्मिभिर्यजमानं वहन्ति प्रियां वाचमभिवदन्त्योर्चयन्त्यः एष वः पुण्यः सुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकः. So the mantra chanted, the mantra translation: come, come, thus the brilliant oblations invite and carry the sacrificer along the rays of the sun, eulogizing him with praising and pleasing words of glorification of the ritualistic practice. This is your well-earned virtuous world of Brahma. Lord Brahma lives in virtuous world of heaven, Swargaloka, Brahmaloka, and the place of enlightenment. These are the said to be the heavens or positive nature. So, what is this mantra communicating? The Yajamana. Yajamana means the performer of ritual, whoever does the ritual, the sacrifice. He does the sacrifice, therefore he earns the virtual world. Virtual world means you go to the world of heavenly pleasures for temporary sojourn. And the virtual world in this mantra, he says, of Lord Brahma. So we all aware there are three gods, the gods of Trinity. Philosophically speaking, they are only intellectual concepts. Brahma, the god of creation, Vishnu, the god of maintenance, and the Shiva, the god of destruction. So these are the three gods. So here he uses the word Lord Brahma because of the context refers to the ritual which takes you to the Brahmaloka, where Brahma lives, said to be in heaven. The heaven to enjoy. What is that heaven to enjoy? The fruit of his sacrifice. Since he has sacrificed, the attitude of sacrifice used in the ritual, he earns the merit of the punya. That merit will transport him to the heaven to enjoy the fruit of sacrifice. Karma, action arising from the virtuous deeds. So virtuous desires, positive desires, desires of unselfish nature for the welfare of the family or community, for the world at large. If a person performs a sacrifice, he earns this virtual worlds of Lord Brahma, said to be sacrificial deeds which deserve the sacrificer, the person, a sojourn, a place in heaven. You go to heaven and enjoy the super sensuous pleasures in that heaven. These meritorious deeds assure the sacrificer the fruit thereof. So, when you perform the positive activities, you get the positive merits, and those positive merits will take you to the super sensuous enjoyments of heaven. Is the fruit you get out of the actions, positive actions. The beauty and joy of heaven you will be enjoying because of the positive activities you executed for the welfare of the world at large. So the sacrificer, however, after exhaustion of these positive merits of punya, karma, the results of the super sensuous enjoyments in the heaven, having enjoyed, he gets back to the mundane world after the sojourn he spent in the heaven. Is such activity does not help to unfold the divinity within you, the supreme God, the Atman, the self-realization is not achieved by these positive desires. Without the concept of enlightenment will not give you the fruit of immortality. So you will be enjoying a temporary sojourn in the heavenly pleasures of Lord Brahma because you have performed activities which are helping the world, unselfish activity, which gave you the merits, the punya, with which you will be able to transport it to the heavenly pleasures of Lord Brahmaloka, where you enjoy a temporary period, and then after exhaustion of that punya, you get back to the mundane world of cycle of birth and death. There is no connection with the Supreme Self, the Atman. This is hardly any human being understands. They always think that we are doing great work, we are helping the society, we are giving so much to the world, we will be taken care of. This is definitely gives you good future. Results accrue from such positive deeds of welfare of the world will take you to the heavenly pleasures, but that is temporary. They have the people who have done this kind of deeds will not be able to unfold the divinity within. The self, the Atman is hidden. It has to be unfolded through Vidya alone. So these sacrificial people who are doing ritualistic practices cannot gain this supreme self within. That such activity will not help you, does not give you unfoldment of self within. So the reference here, therefore, the Guru is emphasizing the limitation of the mundane activity, worldly activity, however noble it is, however great, however sacrificial, it has got a limitation that it will not help you to take you to the immortal self. You will be caught up in heavenly pleasures and get back to the mundane world of birth and death after exhaustion of the punya. So the heaven promised is a result of your activity of noble nature. The advice now given is to focus one's concentration upon the action, not on the result. Even the ritualistic practices, whoever perform, their focus all the time in the heavenly pleasures. Their eyes on the super sensuous joys, but that is not should be the attitude. Your concentration should be on the action, not on the result of action. People are prone to concern themselves with the result of action. They are too much anxious about the fruit of action rather than the action itself. Your business in life is to focus on your present action. No more thinking about the past or future. You have to keep your mind focused on the present action. If an action is performed perfectly then there is no need to think about the result, because the action itself brings about result in the future. So in fact, the thought of the fruit while executing your present action will disturb your concentration in the present, and you may not be able to execute your present action perfectly, properly, because of the mind is not backing the action. The mind is shifted to the future results. Therefore, the clarity of your action, the productivity of your action gets impoverished. Therefore, the advice given is concentrate on the action, not on the result, because the action itself, best performed, perfectly executed, it becomes the result. It is not, result is different from action. Action itself becomes result in the future period of time. Therefore, action well performed itself is the fruit. This is what one must understand. Unfortunately, the mind all the time shifting to the future, not in the present, because of lack of powerful intellect to understand the law. The fruit belongs to the future. The result belongs to the future. Action is in the present. So therefore, the focus of attention should remain with action, because you are in the present. You can only perform action. You cannot do anything with the result. So your mind should be in the action, not in the result. Thus, perfect action referred herein is as a brilliant oblation, because it is a ritual sacrifice. When you oblate, when you offer to the fire god, the fire shoots up and blesses you. Therefore, the brilliant oblation is the activity in the present. That such activity, which is a noble, a great cause of welfare of the world, society, community welfare, such activity one executes will incur the punya, and the result of punya will one takes directly to the glorious abode of heaven, which is Lord Brahma here. So the performer of ritual earns the virtual world, because when he performs an action with the welfare of the world as a motive, the result oriented action, the desire ridden action, action for the cause of welfare of the world, will only take you to the heaven of Brahma. You will not be able to take into the ultimate unfoldment of the divinity, because this is not an action for selfless. So that must be the clear. So at this moment, the human being is fully caught up in the ritualistic practices. So the guru finds it, the vast majority of people are at the level of ritualistic practices. So they need to understand the technique of action, and once they perform a concentrated activity, they will be transported to the heavenly pleasures, and then having exhausted, they'll get back to the mundane world again. But there is a limitation that it will not help you to go to the enlightenment, which is the mission of human being. So not only is the fruit assured for such a perfect action executed in the present by fully concentrated action, even the passage to heaven, the passage to higher sensuous pleasures, locations, which is called heaven, is said to be pleasant. So you not only go to the goal, enjoy the goal, the way, the passage itself is enjoyable. The path is enjoyable, the goal also enjoyable. When a person sacrifices, or when the person performs an unselfish activity, an activity which is not result oriented, just for the action, concentrated action in the present with full concentration, he executes action without allowing the mind to the past or future worries and anxieties. His action will automatically help him with the glorious result of taking him to the meritorious worlds, virtual worlds of Brahma. While executing action, the action itself gives him pleasant joy and happiness. Action itself, well performed, is the joy of the world. Joy itself, action itself is the joy. From the time of performance to the end of when the result comes, a sacrificial action, a unselfish action earns the glory and success and peace of mind to the sacrificer. So every human being today is caught up in result orientation. What I'll get out of it, what I get out of that action. They are not bothered about the actions. They are all the time result oriented, and therefore they suffer. So when a sacrificer, when the ritualist, when he executes his action with full concentration on the present action, he enjoys the action itself, and he enjoys the path, and ultimately he enjoys the glory and greatness of the result of action, which is the heavenly pleasures. So the path is enjoyable, the goal is enjoyable, everything is enjoyable. He is assured because his focus is on the action, perfecting the action, not on the result. So not only is the fruit assured for a sacrificial action, even the passage to heaven is said to be pleasant. So the path is itself is pleasant. From the time of performance of action to the end of the result, a sacrificial action earns the glory, success, and peace to the sacrificer. So that is the advice given. Therefore, what has to be learned from this mantra is, you do your activity to the best of your ability. Whatever your planned activity, your mind must be backing the action. That is concentration. The concentration is defined as the intellect keeping the mind on the present action and not allowing the mind to slip into the past worries and future results, anxiety for the results, enjoyment of the future. Both must be snapped and keep the mind in the present. Such an action gives the success and prosperity along with the peace of mind, which is the glory. And while performing the action itself, that gives him happiness, and the results also give him happiness later on. You find this out in the sports field very, very clearly. When a person gets into the sport, it could be any sport, could be cricket, or it could be tennis, or it could be any sport, a badminton. The player enjoys the game. Every ball, every action is enjoyable. At the end of the day, when he concentrates on the present of every batting, bowling, fielding, or every bit by bit, collectively he will be enjoying the game full day. At the same time, he will be able to give his best to the result also enjoyable. Perhaps he will be making more runs or more catches or whatever it may be, he will be accruing the result also happy and enjoyable. The passes, the game itself, the starting from performance of action till the getting the result, his passes till he gets the goal, because he is giving his best, he is a sacrificer. He will be having that heavenly joy, the success and glory in the future, as well as the peace of mind is fully assured for such a person who is sacrificial in his activities. This is what the guidance given by the Guru. Now we get on to the mantra 7. प्लवाह्येते अदृढा यज्ञरूपाः अष्टादशोक्तमवरं येषु कर्मा ये तच्छ्रेयो येऽभिनन्दन्ति मूढाः जरा मृत्युं ते पुनरेवापि यन्ति प्लवाह्येते अदृढा यज्ञरूपाः अष्टादशोक्तमवरं येषु कर्मा ये तच्छ्रेयो येऽभिनन्दन्ति मूढाः जरा मृत्युं ते पुनरेवापि यन्ति. So the mantra 7 translation is talking about the ritualistic practitioner. What is his way of functioning, how he will be able to get the heavenly pleasures and joys in the world, and what are the consequences of it, and what is the limitation of it. The topic continues. So verily, these are said to be a frail rafts. Means the entire ritualistic practices or activities are called frail rafts. He compares in the form of 8-fold, 18-fold actually. Ashta dasho. Dasha means 10. Ashta means 8. 18-fold sacrifices are there. There are varieties of sacrifices. He is describing 18-fold, constituting inferior action. They are all having limitation because their actions only result oriented and will give you only worldly pleasures if they are positive, but they will not have a direct cause for the enlightenment. Therefore, he is exposing the limitation by comparing with them with the frail raft, means flimsy, may not gives you the immortal strength of permanent bliss and peace of Supreme Self, the Atman. They who acclaim this as the highest good, those who acclaim, those who give the exaggerated value that they will take you to give you highest good of enlightenment in this context, they are all fools. Mudaha. Mudaha means fools. Any amount of ritualistic practices, they will not be able to give you the enlightenment. Any action, how much noble it is, how much great it is, how much unselfish it is, how much sacrificial it is, will not give you the fruit of enlightenment. It is the knowledge of the self alone takes you to the enlightenment is highlighted here. They who acclaim this as the highest good, that ritualistic practices, is condemning, is glorifying, at the same time exposing their limitation or deficiency in taking you to the enlightened state. Therefore, those who regard this practice as the highest, they are fools, he says. They are always subject time and again the old age and death, means they are subjected to change and suffering. They don't reach the changeless state of enlightenment. That's what it means. So he keeps giving the limitation of the ritualistic practitioners who glorify them as highest without knowing the depth and clarity of that. They have no direct connection with the Supreme God, the Atman. The Guru prescribes ritual. No doubt, you got to perform rituals because you are at that level of ritualistic mentality. So Guru prescribes rituals for the disciple. In the earlier beginning stages, you got to practice them in the earlier portion of the Upanishad, because you got so many vasanas, so many desires. But once the desires are offloaded, once you are spiritually progressed, you are advanced, later on, the Guru exposes the limitation of such ritualistic practices. So, Guru recommends initial stages, and same Guru advises not to do once you grow higher and higher, because there is no direct experience of the Supreme God with this ritualistic practices. You can't reach it. The ritualist merely, then what is the purpose of rituals? The ritualistic person who performs rituals, ritualist merely enjoys for a period of time, a limited period of time, the pleasures of heaven earned by his meritorious deeds of that ritualistic actions. Once the merit has been exhausted, thereafter he returns to this mundane world of cycle of birth and death. The cycle goes on. What is the cycle? Birth, growth, disease, decay, and death. This continues for a human being as long as he is caught up in this ritualistic practices. No doubt he enjoys, he earns the meritorious merits by super sacrificial deeds. He earns the punya, but that is not a permanent place. He will come back from that exhaustion of the happiness. So, thereafter, he returns to the cycle of birth and death, decay, disease to the world. So, the 18-fold ritual refers to the 16 priests. So, rituals you have supposed to practice is 18-fold, he says. So, the 16 priests. So, you got to worship 16 priests, Ritvik Pandits, and with Grahastha, householder, and Gruhini, wife. The ritual described as a frail raft. So 18-fold rituals refer to the 16 priests and Ritvik Pandits with Grahastha 16, 17, Grahastha householder, and Gruhini 18. So 16, 17 and 18. The ritual described as a frail raft. Frail means weak, raft means the transporting vehicle. Takes the transporter, a person, a practitioner, where he will go up to a point of return. A point of return means an unselfish point. It is not selfless, because of the ritual is always tainted by desire and vasana. You transport it to super sensual pleasures, and then a point of return. After exhaustion of those meritorious deeds, you get back to the mundane world. Therefore, it is called frail raft up to the point of return, considered inferior as it is inadequate. Because it is inadequate, it is inferior. What is inferior? The ritual itself is inferior. Why? Because you cannot attain the spiritual enlightenment with the rituals. So the Guru ridicules, Guru condemns, exposes the limitation. Though with people, those who acclaim ritual as the highest spiritual practice. So those who are ignorant, fools, who always praise this ritualistic practice as the highest in their life, who indulge continuously in the praising of ritualistic practices and completely lost in those practices, time and effort is spent without having any proper direction or dimension. simply indulge in the practice as an end in itself. It is just a means to an end. They don't recognize. Such people regarded as fools, lost in ignorance. They fail to visualize enlightenment, the realization of Supreme Self that lies beyond the result-oriented activities and limited pursuits in the mundane world. They cannot go beyond because of they caught up in the ritualistic practices and they indulge because they consider these practices as the highest. They regarded as fools, mudaha. The limitation they don't understand. Maximum you will be transported to the heavenly pleasures only to get back to the mundane world of birth and death and disease and suffering. This is not the dignity and prestige of a human being. The prestige and dignity of a human being is to reach the ultimate goal of enlightenment, reach the Supreme God, the Atman, the Self. That is the only mission of human life. All other activities are only gives you a super sensuous temporary joys in the heaven, even though how noble, how great, how unselfish, but they will not give you the enlightenment. Those who regard these rituals as the highest, they are considered as fools, says the Guru here, and compares the ritualistic practice itself as the frail raft, because the raft is that which is supposed to take you from, it's like a boat, it's supposed to take you from the shore of mortality to the shore of immortality. That is the purpose of the whole spiritual journey. But since this is a frail raft, means it's weak, inferior, because it is inadequate. What is that? The very ritualistic practice. It just takes you to the meritorious deeds and get back to the world again after exhaustion of meritorious deeds. This must be constantly remembered and keep the mind fixed on the Supreme Self and get back to the self by using the all the ritualistic practices, if at all, but supposed to be used as a means to the end of enlightenment is okay. But if you use it for the indulgence of the rituals and you are lost in it, you will be considered as a fool and lost in ignorance, and you are no way connected with the enlightenment. They fail to visualize the enlightenment that lies beyond the result oriented limited pursuits. So the again in this mantra also the Guru highlights the importance of the pursuit of enlightenment not to be compromised in any kind of a positive desire ridden activity or negative activity. Anyway, you are at maximum get the super sensuous joys, but to get to the self you got to drop this finally the ritualistic practices in the aim of gaining the knowledge of the self and get back to the enlightenment is the main focus. Rest of the people who are caught up without concept of the Supreme Self, they are regarded as fools and ignorant people. So this must be understood because of not only it is foolish, not only it is a limitation, you will suffer the consequences of decay and death. So this punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam will continue. You cannot wriggle out of this suffering and sorrow, birth, disease, death, and birth, disease, death. You can't come out of it if you don't have the clear concept of visualization of the enlightenment as an aim. just caught up in the mechanical rituals will not help you to the unfoldment of the divinity within, is the guidance given by the Guru in this mantra. Now get back to the mantra 8, chanting. Avidhyayamantare vartamanaha swayam dhira panditam manyamanaha janghanyamanaha paryanti mudhaha andhenaiva niyamana yatandhaha. We repeat the chanting. Avidhyayamantare vartamanaha swayam dhira panditam manyamanaha janghanyamanaha paryanti mudhaha andhenaiva niyamana yathandhaha. So, steeped in ignorance. Steeped means immersed in ignorance, soaked in ignorance. Every human being who is born ignorant of the Supreme Self, disconnected from the Self, divorced from the Self, the Atman is lost. And you are caught up in this world of birth and death, and you are not aware what happened, the tragedy fell upon you. Steeped in ignorance, soaked in ignorance, is talking about ignorance. You ask anyone in the world, where did you come from? No idea. Where are you going? No idea. When are you going? No idea. How are you going? No idea. Completely caught up in ignorance, but claim to be happy. How are you? Fine. We are not suggesting that you should tell that not fine, but do you recognize the vastness of ignorance engulfing you? Whole humanity is engulfed by this vast ignorance and not aware of that ignorance at all, and no attempt to break this ignorance, no awareness, no attempt, and very, very, very sad state of affairs. And suffering and sorrow is the result. So here is the Guru is guiding constantly, steeped in ignorance, believing themselves to be wise. Just because you got educated and have nicely placed, got some bank balance and have a good family, have a children and everything going fine with you, you are in a better position compared to the others. Does it mean that you are happy person? You are at the perfection? No, at all. Steeped in ignorance because you have not got that immortality. You have not got that reality. You have not got that divinity within you. Until you reach the enlightened state of immortality, of infinite happiness and bliss, beyond the birth and death cycle, until unless you break the chain and you are not done your basic duty as a human being, is advice given in the Upanishads. You got to get back to your origin of your enlightened state of immortality, the infinite peace and bliss of human original state is being lost today. Whatever may be the background, wherever may be your status or position or power, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, and where you are. What is your mission in life? What is your current status? And where are you heading towards? If you have no clarity, there is no basic understanding. You are steeped in ignorance. That's what says the Guru here. Steeped in ignorance, believing themselves to be wise. Avidyamana vartamanaha, steeped in ignorance. Dhiraha, believing to be wise, imagining to be wise, just arrogance. I know everything. Just showing of arrogance, nothing else. Wise and learned people, fools stray away, suffering again and again. You are going through this birth, growth, disease, decay, and death repeatedly. Birth, growth, disease, decay, death. Not able to recognize. Straying away again and again. Indeed, as blind led by the blind. Just blind leading the blind. Going on. The so-called the masters, so-called the custodians of religion, who are also equally blind, they declare to be knowledgeable, and the innocent masses are following blindly and getting all sorts of practices, ignorant practices, not leading them to the highest state of enlightenment, which human being here to. Human being alone is designed to reach that state, but not aware of that state. Steeped in ignorance, believing themselves to be wise and learned. Believe just because you collected some degrees, best position and job, you know everything, you believe. Until you reach the self-realization, you are steeped in ignorance. Soaked in ignorance, says the Guru. Fools stray away, suffering again and again. You ask any human being, what is his state? Birth, growth, disease, decay, death. Again born, growth, walking, talking, crawling, growth, disease, decay and death. This cycle goes on. You can't hardly find a person who is capable of understanding and break this chain. This mantra is well known and oft quoted. Avidyamana vartamana swayam dhira panditam manyamana janghanyamana paryanti moda andhe naiva niyamana yathanda. Steeped in ignorance, well learned people, those people who are highly educated are highest fools, he says, reference to the enlightenment, reference to the breaking the chain of birth and death. Have you got the immortality with all the wisdom you can claim, just to show to the masses that you are better intelligent than others, but you have not got the enlightened state of immortality. The mantra is well known, oft quoted. The same appears in the Kathopanishad, Brahadaranyaka. It denounces the ritualistic fools, fools who are routine, mechanical existence. They are simply running after this world, maybe noble deeds, but caught up in this mechanical, ritualistic world of suffering and sorrow. Only their full-time acquisition and enjoyment. They have no higher purpose. They have no self-realization as a goal. They just caught up in this mundane world of acquisition and enjoyment. The mantra denounces the ritualistic fools as fools. Those steeped in ignorance, they believe themselves to be wise and learned. The prime minister or president or any other position, highest position, is fully soaked in ignorance with reference to the enlightened state of immortality. That's what he meant to say. Wise and learned. But where are they? Are they got the immortality? Ignorant fools, he says. Wise and learned, they claim to be a fundamental human weakness. What is a human weakness? Not able to recognize the ignorance which is rampant around you. You are engulfed, you are surrounded by the vast ignorance of Who are you? What are you? No idea at all. What is the purpose of your existence here? Who is your father's first father? Is there any first father? How did you come here? Whether the chicken came first or egg came first. You see the chicken and producing egg. You see the egg produced by chicken. Which came first? Just complacency. Just be with the state of tamas, not interested in breaking these fundamental questions. And the tree came first or the seed came first. You see the mango seed which produced by mango tree, and mango tree produces mango seed, and seed produces a tree, tree produces seed. This chain of cycle goes on. How did this cycle come into existence? Who brought this cycle? What is the origin of this world? Who is behind this? It is a fundamental duty of a human being to investigate and get to the source. There is no interest, steeped in ignorance, completely lost in ignorance and not able to understand the ignorance you are caught up. Josh Billings, the great German philosopher, highlights this brilliant observation. What is that? The trouble with most folks is not their ignorance as much as their knowing so many things which ain't so. The trouble with most folks is not so much their ignorance as their knowing so many things which ain't so. They believe that they know. I know what I am. Who are you to tell me? This is the attitude of every human being today. Lost in ignorance, not able to find out what they are caught up and how to get out of this mess which created by your own ignorance, and not able to see the grandeur and glory of the divinity, the Atman, the Brahman, the Supreme God. This is the ignorance he is talking about in the mantra 8. Steeped in ignorance, believing themselves to be wise and learned, fools stray away, suffering again and again. You are holding a hot plate and burnt your hands and repeatedly holding the hot plate. Is there any sense? Is there any meaning? This is what happening. Repeated birth, repeated death. That's what the Adi Shankaracharya says in Bhaja Govindam also. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Modhamate. You foolish fellows who are caught up, not able to seek the highest, not able to seek the Govinda, not able to seek the enlightenment, the immortality, the deathless, birthless state which you are supposed to reach it in this very lifetime, you squander away, fritter away. You vainly spend your time in this hollow, empty world of objects and beings and desire-ridden activity, foolish life living but claim to be wise and learned. That is the contradiction the Guru is highlighting here. The mantra is well known and oft quoted. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shenam, iha samsare, bahudostare, krupaya pare, pahi morare, says the Adi Shankaracharya also. Same tone, repeatedly born, repeatedly dying, repeatedly lying in the mother's womb, and now clue what's happening with everybody. And how are you? Fine. What is fine actually? Nothing is fine, but claim to be everything is fine is the steeped in ignorance. He says the Guru here. The same appears in the Kathopanishad as well as the Upanishad also. The mantra denounces, deplores the state of human beings today because they are caught up in ritualistic practices foolishly without understanding the purpose of existence here. Those steeped in ignorance, the tragedy is they claim to be wise and learned. That is the strange phenomena. A person is like have no money, begging in the streets, but claim to be is rich. It's like that. It's a totally unreasonable assessment of oneself. They believe themselves to be wise and learned, a fundamental human weakness. What is the weakness? The weakness is that they are ignorant, but they believe that they know everything. The ego and arrogance clouds their reality. A fundamental human weakness, which Josh Billings, the great German philosopher, highlighted already in the brilliant observation. The most folks, the trouble with most folks means the most people is not their ignorance, but their belief that they know, as they're knowing so many things which ain't so, which not so. Who knows where is he coming from? Who knows where is he going? When is he going? How is he going? Nobody knows anything about this creation. Who created this world? Simply say God created and get away with it without finding the truth behind. Just bringing in imaginary words, speculative words, without having any scientific investigation and find out. The great masters, the great sages and saints in this country has investigated and found out that is the supreme God, the Atman, the enlightened state. You belong to that state and you are that state. You have lost it. Get back to that state is the Upanishad highlighting. Forgetting that particular mission and goal and doing everything else here in this world is the steeped in ignorance and foolish life, and claim to be wise and learned is the tragedy fell upon the human beings. So wake up call. This is a great wake up call, awakening to what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do all the time, what is the mission, how to plan way progress towards the enlightenment is the guidance given by Guru. Recognize your ignorance, aware of your ignorance all the time, so that you will be able to move in the right direction and get to the enlightenment in this mantra 8. We'll take up this mantra again fresh in the next class and we'll continue the class. Thank you very much. Hari Om.